Welcome to another episode of the Ronnie Phillip Show. I'm your host, Ronnie Phillip, with the Kingly Group at Keller Williams Realty, also with Kingly Acquisitions, where we focus on acquiring value-add apartment buildings. If you're looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate here in Texas, give me a call. I'd love to help you out any way we can. And if you're watching this video, make sure you give us a thumbs up, give us some hearts, leave us some questions so we can answer them, and that way we know who's watching. So, it is my honor to introduce you to my guest on today's show. He's an author, a speaker, a business tycoon who's funded over $1 billion in loans in the commercial fleet financing business, Matt Manero.
Ronnie.
Welcome to the show, Matt.
Dude, happy to be here. Welcome to the studio.
So, let's jump into it. Give us like an introduction of who you are and then how you got started.
Well, I moved to Texas 1995, started my business. I grew up in Connecticut. My real dad split when I was 6 months old. Never saw him again, never heard from him again. My adopted dad was a tough dude. And I wanted out, man. I didn't want any part of that stuff. So I couldn't wait to get out of high school, get out of college. And then I ended up in Texas, 1995, 23 years ago. And I started this company in a one-bedroom apartment with a phone and a folding table. And it's been a pretty good run.
Yeah, awesome. So let's go back to your childhood because I believe like this is where it all starts, all your beliefs.
Yeah.
So let's go there. So,
Where do you want to go?
So like first, what did your parents teach you about money?
What did my parents teach me about money?
Yeah.
Nothing. Zero. Like nothing about money. So literally no lessons about money. Look, I knew from a very early age that I wanted out of that family unit. I was an outsider from my earliest memories. Even inside my family, I felt like an outsider. So I wasn't sticking around like loving the dinner table, and we weren't having riveting conversations, and my old man wasn't bringing in like these nuggets of knowledge. Tremendous fighting. My parents fought like cats and dogs. It was a very, not bad, it was mine.
Yeah.
So I don't have any resentment towards it. All of it contributed to who I was. But to think that it was normal or not dysfunctional would not be looking at it the right way.
Yeah. So what were your challenges back then?
Look, man, I was an adopted kid who didn't know his dad. And that's a big deal, I think.
Yeah.
I think it affects a lot of people who are in that situation.
Yeah.
Where they know their setup is going to be different than the other kids.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe you start to manifest these versions of what it really is, or you really sort of long for something early on in your life. You're longing for that. And I think for most adopted kids, we just bury that shit deep. And we're like, forget it. It doesn't affect me. But it does.
Yeah.
And for me, it came out much later in my life. In my 40s is when all that stuff started to regurgitate itself.
Yeah, that makes sense. So since your parents didn't teach you anything about money, what did you learn on your own back then as a kid?
Well, look, my old man taught me about work.
Yeah.
He was a hardworking guy. And so I understood very early work equals money. I was always the kid mowing lawns, pushing the lawnmower, shoveling snow. I grew up in Connecticut. I was always that kid. I was always hustling like that, walking dogs and babysitting. At 14, got a job cooking in a restaurant. Just always never afraid of work. But as far as investing or what to do with it or real strategies or entrepreneurship or passive income or multiple streams of income. Nobody was teaching me that stuff, period.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And what were your money beliefs in your 20s?
Okay. What were my money beliefs in my 20s? I started the company when I was 25. So very early on, at 25, I clearly understood the importance of RevGen. Even before I started the company, I was number one sales guy for the company that I was with before. And so, I knew how to make revenue. I didn't know how to run a business.
Yeah.
But I knew how to make revenue. I always knew how to make revenue, you know. I also knew how to spend it all too. Always the broke kid in college, make it, spend it, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I never understood about saving money or any of that sort of stuff. And but I learned that very quickly after I started my business, man. That don't work in business. You must have reserves.
Yeah. So what were your money mistakes in your 20s? You said you're blowing money here and there. So
You mean before I started the company or after I started the
both?
company? Well, I mean, before I started the company, I was living in California on the beach, making really good money for a 21, 2, 3, 4-year-old kid. And we were having the time of our lives, man. I was with my college buddies. We were having a grand old time. So I never worried about my ability to make money. And I don't today.
Yeah.
I never worried about how am I going to generate rev. And I also am pretty oddly spiritual in that regard. Not so much religious, but spiritual, that everything happens for a reason. I mean, I've believed that my whole life. So I always knew that if I was doing the right stuff, I'd be taken care of. When I started my business, though, we didn't have any customers, man. We didn't have any revenue. I was sued for breach of my non-compete clause. My car got repossessed. I was in a dumpy one-bedroom apartment. I mean, dude, it was bad. But it wasn't bad for like months, dude. It was bad for years.
Wow.
And then I got married. I met my wife a couple years into the business. So we got married, started having kids. And it was a tough road, dude. First decade of my business was nasty.
So dive deep into that. Like what was so challenging about those times back then?
Dude, how do you get the business off the ground, man? Where do the customers come from? How do you grow revenues? How do you scale? How do you find people? Who do you trust? Who are your mentors? Who are you listening to? How do you do marketing? I can't afford to hire people, but I need to hire people. I'm working my fingers to the bone, man. I'm still not making enough money to hire people to do this job. I can't afford to take a pay cut to hire somebody. That's business, man, for so many small business owners, and they live like that forever.
Yeah.
It's also the greatest reason why most people shouldn't be in business for themselves. They can't handle that much pain.
Yeah. So what would your advice be to people in their 20s, millennials, about this?
About what? How to what? Deal with the pain?
Deal with the pain, stacking, racking, like what they should be doing, like what career paths they should be taking, different things like that.
Yeah, I mean, look, most of the stuff is in my book, You Need More Money, right? And I really tried to write a book that gave a roadmap to a lot of people. But, and I don't need to go to the book for this. It's literally exactly how I look at it. The first thing somebody needs to do is figure out really what do they stand for? What are their core values? I mean, are they willing to bend the rules? Are they not willing to bend the rules? That's a big deal, man. Are you willing to take a bribe or not? Are you willing to pay a bribe or not? Are you willing to screw over the customer just to make a buck or not? I have left millions of dollars on the table because I refuse to screw over the customer. Millions and millions. My biggest customer before his company was sold was a CPA. And he never asked me interest rate one time on the millions of dollars that we did in the financing of his trucks. He never asked me interest rate one time because he was smarter than I was. He knew that I would be harder on myself about what was a good pricing run for him than he would have been on me. So he let me negotiate against myself.
Wow.
And I did. And I sold deals way too cheap with him. I left 2 points on millions and millions of dollars worth of business. I never was going to screw anybody. And I was very strong and clear about that early on. So rule number 1, get your core values in order, man. Rule number 2, you got to find the right platform. What is platform? I call it platform. Some people call it industry. Some people call it career. Some people call it space. Most people are in shitty industries, Ronnie.
Yeah.
They're never going to get rich in the platform that they chose to be in. The platform stinks. It's old news. They don't have someone that they can follow. There isn't someone in the office who's killing it. So they just sort of buy into this silly lie that their manager or the office manager or the owner of the company told them that they can get rich there. Well, prove it to me.
Yeah.
Who is getting rich here? In my world, I knew that the big, large publicly traded banks dominated my space, my platform. So all I had to do was follow that.
Yeah.
Right? Where the big banks are, there's money, always. So for me, that was easy. I knew there was money in the platform, but most people don't, man. They're in lousy businesses that have no chance of getting them rich.
So how do you identify the right platform? What are the qualities you would say to look out for when you're trying to decide on what you want to do?
But the platform has to match to your core values. Don't let me interrupt you. What were you going to say?
Oh yeah, and go more onto the core values too.
I mean, core values are easy, man.
Yeah.
What do you want your life
Yeah.
to look like, man? I mean, who do you want to be around? Are you an analytical guy or are you a gregarious person? What are your ethics? Are you willing to bend the rules or are you not willing to bend the rules? Are you a morning person or are you an evening person? Do you want to work long hours or do you want to work short hours? Can you take rules or not?
Yeah.
I'm not a very good guy around rules. I love to break rules, so I was always a lousy employee. But you got to get that stuff figured out,
Yeah.
man. What are you going for? What does it matter? And you got to figure that stuff out first. So my feedback to someone is, how do you find the right platform? There's got to be somebody making bank. By the way, we're talking money here, I hope, right? I mean, I'm not talking about like happiness or, karma or conscious capitalism. I'm talking about getting paid.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's what matters to me.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't see it that way. Look, I'm an incredibly selfish person. I want my piece of the American pie. I'm not interested in helping Ronnie with his piece of the American pie until I get my piece first. And I think a lot of people think that they lead incorrectly. Zig Ziglar used to say, if you help enough people get what they want, they'll help you get what you want. I'm not so sure I really believe that.
Yeah.
I think you got to get your piece first, and then you can go help other people. And a lot of people are leading with, I want to help other people. And I'm like, well, but you're not helping yourself.
Yeah.
Dude, go get your piece of the pie. Then worry about who you can help. So got to figure out in the platform who's making money.
Okay.
Like in your world, the first thing I'd be saying in your office is I'd be like, who's the richest dude or dude at Keller Williams in my office? Who's got the money? Who's number one big dog? Good. Let me take you out for a sandwich. At the lunch, how much you making? Well, I'm going to have a great year. I'm going to make 150 grand. Whoa, I thought you were the number one person in the office. Yeah, I am. And you're making 150? I'm in the wrong platform.
Yeah. So, what is more important as we dive into this, trying to find the right platform? Is it who you know or what you know?
It has to be what first. Because when you move up the food chain, Ronnie, into who, dude, what keeps you there is the what.
Yeah.
Everybody expects you to be able to compete with them intellectually, experientially, knowledge, skill set. I mean, nobody wants to hang out with the village idiot, So you have to have skills. And with those skills, you begin to leverage it. And whether those skills are general, like I'm a good salesperson, I'm a great doctor or nurse or real estate person or equipment finance person, whatever, there has to be some version of expertise before you can start to work on the who.
Okay, that makes sense. So dive in how to network. What are your strategies on networking?
Number one strategy on networking, I believe, I did this myself when I recognized I had a lousy network, was you have to fall on the sword and be totally humble about it. The rich guys that I know, they all see the phony coming. They see the phony coming before the phony knows that they're seen. Make sense?
Yeah.
So you have to come at it with humility. So the first question you should ask if you're moving up the food chain is, who do you think I would get along from and I can learn from? By the way, if you really want to get serious about it, the first thing you got to do is take a personality test. Have you ever taken a personality test?
Yeah, I've taken like a DISC assessment.
Cool.
And like there is this new thing like Keller Williams called a KPA.
Cool. Love it.
Yeah.
So you already have a very good insight on who you are and what you should be doing. And you should be moving in the results of the DISC.
Yeah.
So many people, number one, never taken a personality test. Number two, they don't even apply the results. Those things are uncanny true. So your DISC, just like my DISC, and we do predictive index testing in this office, it tells us what we should be doing. Mine, like off the charts, must have teamwork, must be leader, must be top dog, no patience for social, no patience for lack of performance, hard driving. Dude, that's an entrepreneur. That's the only thing I'm supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
Is lead an organization. So once you figure out what yours, like, what does yours say you should be doing?
So,
Does it say you're socially conscious, or you're intently driven and viciously ambitious? What does it say?
so I'm kind of like in the middle of a. I haven't looked in a long time. I think I'm like.
Dude, you should
kind
take
of,
my predictive index.
Okay.
Don't leave this office. I'm going to send you a link. Sarah will send you a link to the predictive index. I can help you with that.
Yeah, because I think I was like a DI, but
Yeah.
then with like a low S. So
Let
I
me
haven't
help you
taken
with
a
the
long
predictive
time.
index, because
Yeah.
it has tremendous narrative too. And by the way, anyone listening to your podcast today, if they want to send me an email to mmanero@cffnationwide.com, I will send them the free link to our predictive index, and they can take a personality test, and I'll pay for it.
Yeah, I think taking those type of tests are really good for like self-awareness. Because I took one with KW, and it just said a lot. Like being an individual agent was like the lowest thing on the score, but being a team leader is like it was like the highest score you can possibly get.
Dude, I
It was-
already see that about you, dude.
Yeah.
You want to pull people. You're looking. That's an important element to who Ronnie is. Ronnie wants to help, and Ronnie wants to be the Pied Piper, and Ronnie wants to pull people along with him.
Yeah,
And so that's a very important skill set of yours that you need to recognize. It's part of your DNA, and you need to fuel it.
yeah,
You need to pour gas on that fire.
I agree. So back to networking. So how did you like meet these type of people? Like how did you become friends with incredible businessmen like Grant Cardone or Ed Milet?
Yeah, I mean, look, I just set out to meet those guys.
Yeah.
So I'm a pretty crafty guy, and I knew that I could pay my way in.
Yeah,
And so, in my Cardone example, I heard he was doing something in Mexico.
yeah,
I don't remember exactly how much it cost, X number of thousands of dollars. And I said, well, I got to meet this guy. So Rocky, that's the name of my wife, we're packing up. We're going to Mexico for the weekend. And it turned out, I didn't know how many people were going to be there, but it turned out there were like 30 or 40 people.
yeah,
Well, that's pretty good. But then I also leveraged that because I said I'm going to buy Cardone University, the sales training for the business. And I brought a check with me to buy it. And I said, the only way I'll write this check for you guys right now is if I have dinner with Cardone. And they were like, of course. So I had dinner with Cardone, and we've become buddies ever since. So you may have to buy your way in
yeah,
to some of that stuff. I think the answer to your question is twofold. Number one, if you want personal stimulus, you might go to Tony Robbins' Awaken the Giant Within, or whatever his program's called. But that's different than building a network,
yeah,
because you're not going to meet Tony Robbins at that unless you're one of 10,000 people. But you can buy your way into a mastermind with the right leader that begins to catapult you. The rest of it, though, is connected to what the great Jim Rohn said, that people of interest do interesting things. And I recognized that 5-6 years ago, that I just better start doing some more interesting stuff. And so I wrote the first book, The Grit, which then led to this second book, which this book's with a major publisher, Penguin, which then led to the podcast, which then opened up the ability to get Milet and Tim Story and Lamarck and Cardone and sitting here today with you.
yeah,
So people of interest have to do interesting things. You got to do cool shit. If you're not doing cool shit, you ain't going to get on anybody's radar screen.
yeah.
So what's cool stuff? Jump out of planes, play piano, get ridiculously fit, write books, become a personality on social, whatever. Do something that separates you from the crowd.
No, that makes sense. So like we're like these. I think it's really important to be in masterminds. So what are the masterminds you're in, or different things like that?
I'm in a couple pretty hardcore ones. The one I just got back to was at MIT 2 weeks ago. It's called Gathering of Titans. That was pretty powerful. The theme of this one was 4 days. The theme is called Courage. We had the most unbelievably courageous people come and speak. And then, I have a business mentor. And then I have a very close friend of mine who's become sort of a personal mentor to me, who I trust implicitly.
Mm-hmm.
His name is Rick, and we get together once a month. We have lunch, same restaurant, same day, same restaurant, same time, same booth. And But I don't need a lot of that
Yeah.
anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like sooner or later, you have to stop being the student, and you have to eventually begin to believe that you could be the teacher, right?
Oh, that makes sense.
And so that's an important thing. A lot of people are students forever, dude.
Yeah.
You don't need to be a student forever. I mean, it's not that complicated.
Yeah.
Get up early, stay late, get in the right platform, beat the competition, have a desire to win, build a team, lead by your core values, make money, keep the money, invest the money. I mean, it's not that difficult.
Yeah.
People make it more difficult than it is.
No, that makes sense. So, let's jump back to CFF. What were your challenges in starting this company?
Well, it's the same with anybody who starts a company. I mean, what do we do?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, my college was, I went to cooking school, dude.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about business. So we learned it all along the way. Biggest problem in business was, who do you trust?
Yeah.
And I got such terrible information on that, Ronnie. That was just totally wrong information. People told me, don't trust anybody. Only one hand works the register. That was such BS. It was so wrong.
Yeah.
Totally crazy. If you want to build a world-class company, you have to trust people. You have to have core values, mission statement. People will respond to it. They have to be free and empowered to make decisions on their own. And you got to get the hell out of their way, because I can only do one or two things pretty well.
Yeah.
That's it. Most business owners think they have to do everything, and at the end of the day, they do almost nothing well.
That makes sense. And so during these challenges, what sacrifices did you have to make to get to the level you are at now?
Everything, dude.
Yeah.
Sacrificed it all. That's a big problem that I don't think most are willing to do.
Yeah.
Dude, I've sacrificed my health. I'm lucky that I've been married 20 years, that my wife put up with a lot of my sacrifices. I've sacrificed time with my children. Even though I've also committed a lot of time with my children, there have been many nights where I was just so zoned out and exhausted that I couldn't talk or communicate well with my children or my wife. Mm-hmm. She took care of that. She filled that gap.
Yeah.
Man, I've gone broke 3 times in the business trying to keep it afloat. I mean, all of it, dude. My whole life has been committed to this business and getting this business to a certain level. And some people might think that that's great, and I'm like, man, we're just getting going.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think this business has even scratched the potential of what it should do. I wasted way too many years figuring it all out.
So what mistakes did you make along the way?
Number one mistake is I probably didn't have a mentor or a networking group. Mm-hmm. I shunned away from that. I had self-esteem issues, and I said I'm not good enough, that the business isn't profitable enough, the business isn't big enough, no player is going to want to work with us. It was so wrong. And so everybody has to get a mentor as early as you possibly can. You have to drop the cloak of fear or insecurity or even bravado. Right? Mm-hmm. In my book, I talk about it, this concept of false positive, where so many people think they're doing better than they really are. Dude, your mentors don't want to deal with somebody who's in false positive.
Yeah. And dive deeper into what a false positive is. And by the way, I read this book 2 times, and it's such an incredible book. Every person who's watching this video, there's thousands of you that watch my videos. Y'all need to go and get this book. It's awesome. I wish it was in every high school. I wish it was in colleges. I wish it was in elementary schools. Like, people really need to hear what Matt has to say in this book, because man, it just blew my mind when I read this. I read it again this morning before I came here.
Thanks.
So
cool.
Make sure you get the Audible as well and the hard copy, because I feel like it's really powerful when you have the Audible. You listen to the person who wrote the book's voice and read it and highlight and study it. This is the best book I've ever read on money. So make sure y'all go and get it.
Oh, dude, thanks for that. That's cool, man.
So
That's really nice.
So what were your, since we're talking about money, what were your top money mistakes that you're making right now?
That's a great question, man. So eventually you get to a spot, and that depends on a different threshold, but it happens to all of us, where we begin to hoard the nuts, right? And I'm stacking and racking and hoarding nuts, and the answer is I'm probably holding on to way too much cash. Yeah. Because I keep waiting for this shoe to drop and this economic downturn to occur. Look, dude, you're in the real estate business. Houses can't keep selling at this pace, can they? No. They're selling like within days, right? Yeah. Above ask still?
Yep. And most it's shifting on the higher side, but anything under 300,000, if priced correctly, will sell in a few days.
Yeah. See, I live in South Lake, and it's
Yeah.
even more than that. $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 houses are going like that, like days.
Yeah.
So I keep waiting for this shoe to drop because I want to buy on the dip, right?
Yeah.
But the dip isn't coming. And so to answer your question, which I think is a great question, dude, I've never been asked that question. I've been asked, what are the money mistakes you used to make? But I've never been asked the question of what are the money mistakes you're making right now? And here's what's funny. Most people that have money will know the answer to that question.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's haunting me. What am I supposed to do with this cash? So I'm not allocating, I'm not deploying the cash because I'm waiting for the dip. And that is a huge money mistake because sometimes the dip never comes. Or the run up is so great that even when the dip comes, you still miss the dip because you
Yeah.
never got in. So it's a great question, dude. Great question.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, like during the last economic downturn, I was in 8th grade, so
Yeah.
I didn't really know anything. So, with you in business, how did you identify that you probably went through multiple cycles too in the 23 years? So, how did you identify in like that there is an economic downturn? Because I'm sure you're trying to predict, whenever you're trying to invest your money.
Yeah.
And I feel like we can never predict it. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Two things on that. Number one, I think it's a really important point what you just made because a lot of people your age have never been through an economic downtime. And so I was interesting that you felt that there was a downturn possibly coming. It was weird for me when you agreed with me on that because then I said, well, he's never even seen
Yeah.
the downturn, right? Now, it doesn't mean that kids in 8th grade's parents didn't lose their houses and disrupted families and stuff. That happened. That was a bad one.
I had no clue what was going on in 8th grade. I really didn't. I thought everything was. I mean, I would
What
see
do your parents do?
healthcare,
Like what? Like
home health care.
Okay, so they, that's somewhat of a recessionary proof business, correct?
Yeah.
People are getting sick and need all that anyway, right? But, it was rough, dude.
Yeah.
It was bad. So long story short, I didn't see it coming, right? It caught us a little bit faster than we thought. And on paper, we were basically broke in 2008. And we just kept coming in here. And me and 3-4 guys that are still with me, we just literally kept coming in and dialing all day long. You want to buy? You want to buy? Want to buy? Want to buy? Want to buy? Dude, hundreds of phone calls to save the business. And we did. And while all of our competitors were going out, man, it was a bad time. But we worked our way through it. And then, it's just been unbelievable the last 8 or 9 years. The beautiful part is, here's what people need to understand about business. If you're in the right platform and you have the right culture and the right business model, you can make up the gap, man. It can hockey stick for you so fast, because when the tide comes back in, there are less boats, right? And so there's more business for fewer companies, and you can make up that gap that you lost. A lot of people just don't want to weather the storm.
Yeah.
And I was willing to go all in that. We had to, but I was comfortable with it because I knew I had plenty of time to still make up the gap, and we did, big time.
So while everyone was, throwing in the towel, did you see a significant impact on your market share within this industry?
Yeah, I mean, we look, we're still, even at our numbers, a small fish in this big pond. I mean, Wells Fargo Equipment Finance, not Wells Fargo Bank, the Equipment Finance division will do $3.5 billion this year.
Wow.
In transportation equipment, and we'll do $180 million. So we're a pimple on the butt of Wells Fargo.
Yeah.
So we're not stealing share from Wells. It just happens to be a $1.5 trillion industry.
Yeah.
So the message to people is make sure you get yourself into a big fat industry. What's an example of one that would suck? Like, I wouldn't want to be in the printing business, That would probably not be a great place to be. But yet there's a lot of guys who are operating a screen shop, or they're calling on you to do business cards, or they're in business for themselves making business cards or flyers. It's like, dude, get out of that business. Just cut your losses now. That business sucks, And I'm not bashing on those guys. I'm just saying don't stick in with a lousy platform.
Yeah.
Know when to get out.
But how do you know when to get out? What are the signs?
Who's making money? If you can't find one person in the business card printing business who's killing it, you're in the wrong platform. Now, what happens if you do? You got to hook up with that guy. That person has to be your mentor. Take them out to lunch. Talk to them. What are they doing that you're not doing? How can you learn from them? That's how you do it.
Yeah.
You have to change your business to be Vistaprint, right? That's what you have to do. You can't do it the way your dad ran the printing business that you just took over. You've got to pivot. You got to change, or you got to punt and get out.
Yeah, so it's always whenever during these downturns, which another one is coming. We don't know when it is. It's always, what I feel is like started the patterns before. Like if people bought back in 2008, 2009, I remember we bought a flip in Irving for $60,000 back in the day, and then I think we sold it for like 110 or something like that. So it's pretty good. That same
good
street, we bought another one, and we bought it at 100 and it sold for 175. So I mean, it's crazy to see. Like I didn't know back then. I was like, okay, I was in 8th grade. I didn't know this, but looking as an adult now, just from that example, it's pretty crazy to see how things change so quickly on the same street. So
Yeah.
So
But in your business, just like mine, there are telltale signs. So when home sales slow,
yeah,
when people aren't doing renovations as quickly as they once were, in my world, as trucks aren't delivering as much freight, when our collection rate starts to go up,
Yeah.
when the buying patterns start to slow down, those are all indications. The question is, or the challenge that most people have in business, my friend, is they never cut wide enough or deep enough. And what do I mean by that? Wherever you're going to cut your expenses to weather the storm, they
Yeah.
rarely go wide enough and deep enough. They just sort of limp in on the cuts and they bleed out. Dude, when you see it turning, you got to cut.
yeah. So when you're talking about cutting, in this book you talk about stacking and racking, having a reserve account.
Yeah.
Touch a little bit on that, on how, because when we're preparing for a downturn,
Yeah.
different things like that, you have to have the reserve accounts.
You got to have cash.
Yeah.
But not just to protect against the downside.
Yeah.
Because you can get through the downside just through hustle and grit and grind. And if you know how to make money, you can get through it. But how do you put money away to make money? That's the thing that people in false positive don't do, dude.
Yeah.
They just think it's going to continue like this. You must stack and rack cash. So, simple takeaway in the book. You must have 2 accounts. The first is your operating account. That's where your money goes into. The second is your reserve account. Any dollars over your budgeted numbers, what it is that it takes you to live, must be moved into your reserve account. Key component to the reserve account. It has to be in a separate bank account. It cannot be in the same bank. So we'll have 2 accounts at Chase. One is our operating account, our checking account. The other is our reserve account, our savings account. Those are the tip. I call them different. Most people call them checking and savings. But if they're both at Chase, we're going to move from our savings back into our checking.
It's easier.
It's easy.
Yeah.
It's done on your phone. You don't even think about it. In fact, you don't even really realize that you have 2 separate accounts because you're kind of using them as one. In my world, my reserve account is at a 2-branch bank. The bank is closed on Saturdays and they're open from 9 to 5 during the week. In other words, it's a pain in my butt to get money out of that bank. I have no check writing capabilities on it and I have no debit or credit cards connected to it. I physically have to go to the bank to get my money. Dude, that's your reserve account.
Yeah.
That's your stack and rack account. That's the one that says, I'm ready. When the opportunity to buy commercial real estate like we were talking about, or to be an angel investor, or to invest in private equity, or whatever else it is, to make more money comes along, you got the money to do it. That's the power of the reserve account. And so many people don't have it.
Yeah.
It's the only thing that saved my ass in business. And it's the only thing that has allowed me to make a lot of money outside of my business.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. What are your favorite types of investments, and what are you currently investing in?
Well, my favorite investment is in myself, right? I do like to do that. I like to learn. My second favorite investment is commercial fleet because it throws off the most profit. My third is commercial real estate. I love commercial real estate for the long-term play. I don't need the cash flow. I just like the long-term play. And then I do some angel and private equity stuff, which I'm not sure what to say about that. I had one that paid off very handsomely. I've had a few that were losers. So I don't really know whether those deals are going to play out. Those are sort of like, high flyer moonshot type investments. Put a couple hundred in, and if they hit, maybe you make a couple million on a couple hundred. So we'll see.
Wow.
But my standard deal is myself, my business, commercial real estate.
What type of commercial real estate do you invest in?
I only invest in limited partnerships. I don't want to know about the property. I don't give a damn who runs it. I don't want to be in charge of tenants or repairs. I only invest in limited partnerships. I am a passive investor with a group that handles all of the heavy lifting.
Mm-hmm.
I give up a lot of cash flow for that.
Yeah.
There's a fee connected to that. I'm perfectly fine with it. There's probably a couple points of rate of return connected to that. I'm perfectly comfortable with that. I don't want a phone call about a toilet or a window or a roof or vacancies, period. So that's how I invest in commercial real estate. I have no interest in owning and controlling the asset. I just want the equity build over the long term.
Yeah. So is it like apartments, multifamily,
Multifamily apartments.
self-storage?
I do self-storage and I do multifamily apartment complexes. That's
So
it.
what do you like? Because I have a lot of people in my audience who likes apartment buildings and self-storage. So
Yeah.
let's dive a little bit deeper into the both. So why do you like apartment buildings?
Well, I believe that there is a movement to home ownership being silly. Now, we don't see it here in Texas because home ownership is very affordable. But in many parts of the country that are highly desirable, a place like a place like San Diego, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago, New York for sure, Miami, you can't afford to buy a home. Mm-hmm. It's priced itself out. The only way you can buy a home is if you have tremendous equity on the home that you just sold to be able to put down on the new home you want to buy. So just the simple cost of home ownership in major cities is keeping people out. So they rent. And I think if you can keep a rental payment around $1,000 to $1,400, there's always going to be a market for that. Mm-hmm. So I don't buy crappy properties. I buy nice properties. I buy into nice properties.
Yeah.
And again, I don't even care about the cash flow. Like I just say to the guys, dude, just put it in a drip account. Don't even send me the check. Just put it in a drip, reinvest it back in a limited partnership if you want. And I just care about the upside. That's it.
So when they sell?
When they sell. Yeah.
Okay.
All my money back plus 30, 40, 50% return on it's out there. All right, I'm in a deal right now. The group paid $28 million for the property. I bought in 14.4%, and it was just recently valued at 38. They said they'll sell it at 40.
Wow.
Okay? So nice pop. It's a 50% return on my money on top of 3 years worth of 8% annual cash flow that's just in a drip account. I'll pull $600,000-700,000 out of that deal.
Okay, that makes sense. So who are your mentors in that business?
I love Grant Cardone. I'm invested with Grant Cardone in it. And I love Robert Kiyosaki. I think he's super, super smart. I love his material. And that's it. But listen, I've taught myself that business.
Yeah.
That business isn't that complicated.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's pretty easy. Now, finding the deals, managing those deals, improving those deals, I don't know much about that. But the numbers of those deals, easy.
Oh, that makes sense. And what about self-storage? What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know much about self-storage. I'm in a self-storage deal with guys because I love them.
Yeah.
I just love the guys that I'm in the deal with. That's it. I would run through fire for those guys.
Yeah, Dave and Jamie, they're incredible people.
I don't care what those guys are in. I want to be partners with those guys. So the first deal they presented to me was self-storage. I'm like, you have the money tomorrow. Like, I didn't even care what the deal was. I just want to be partners with those guys.
Wow. That's awesome. That's very powerful. So let's dive in. So what are your money beliefs now?
In what do you mean, Ronnie? Give me the question. What do you mean?
Like, what do you believe, like, from before, like, when in your 20s to now, like, what do you believe as far as money goes? Like, your beliefs?
I'm not sure I totally get the question. What I do believe is that most people are way, way, way behind financially. My book talks about that. It's the story of my brother-in-law.
Yeah.
I also believe that most people are, how should I say this? Well, they're in false positive.
Yeah.
They just think they're doing better than they are because they haven't run the numbers. Dude, when you run the numbers, you will quickly see that $1 million doesn't mean squat.
Yeah.
It's no money in comparison to what most people think. So you got to put yourself on a path. I talk about it in the book. I think it's one of the best parts about the book is I give actual thresholds for people to achieve. There's a great one that the publisher made me take out where I said in the book, that life begins at 150 grand a year, life gets better at 250 grand, and life gets real good at 500. Those are the numbers, by the way.
Yeah.
But the publisher made me take that out because they thought it would alienate too much of the American population.
No, that was probably the best thing I've heard from you, that didn't come into this book. So that one was really awesome. Guys, make sure you please get this book. It is
please.
so awesome.
Thanks, man.
So
The other thing in that book, which is really important too, is I give the 3 phases of wealth: broke,
Yeah.
accumulation, and rich. And broke is if you have less than 50 grand liquid, you're broke.
yeah,
Accumulation is between 50 grand and whatever you think rich is.
yeah,
And I'm not, brazen enough to tell someone what rich is, because I think if you want to drive a truck for 6 months and then
Yeah.
go surf in Costa Rica for 6 months, dude, you might be really rich. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And I don't mean rich in the dollar amounts. That may be a very rich life.
yeah,
So I'm not here to tell someone what rich is, but I do give an argument in the book that says you shouldn't do investing of any kind whatsoever until you have 100 grand saved up in your reserve account, and that the number you really should be shooting for is about $5 million in net worth.
yeah,
That's really the number. And then if you remember, I also give the 1, 3, 5, 10 scenario of what a person's net worth at 20, 30, 40, and 50 should
Yeah.
be. So I don't know where that information exists in a book.
No, it doesn't. And it really blew my mind once I read it. I wish I read this when I was like 17, before I went to college, and different things like that, because you could really recognize this. So another downturn is coming. So it's good to like learn from people like yourself on money, because I think it's really, really
The
important.
best thing that could happen to this book is a recession.
Yeah.
A lot of people will buy that book if there's a recession, but you can't bet against my primary business, because a recession would hurt my business.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. So what is your lifestyle by design? You talk about that a lot in the book.
Yeah, man, what do you want? I mean,
Yeah.
what is it? Look, I'm not here to say what, I don't care whether a guy drives a Lambo
Yeah.
or whatever. I don't care about that stuff. But I don't care about it right now, because I got 3 boys who all play sports. They got muddy cleats and bags that stink of, lacrosse gear and all that sort. Dude, I just want to throw that stuff in the back of my Yukon and go down the road, right? So lifestyle by design is the ability to lead your life by your design. What do you want, man? What is it all about? Everybody makes that so difficult. Just
Yeah.
figure it out and then go get it.
And
It's not hard to get.
yeah, and in this book, he goes into tremendous detail on how to find this out. So make sure y'all get that. So what is your definition of enough money?
Enough money is what is your lifestyle by
Yeah.
design. So you live the life that you want anytime you want without worrying about money. That is enough. Again, man, listen, my grandparents, my grandparents were immigrants from Ireland. My grandfather was a milkman. My grandmother was a maid. And they never seemed to want. They seemed to lead a really nice, happy life. They lived in their little house. She went to the store every day. My grandmother went to church every single morning,
Yeah.
her entire life. My grandfather would go down to a little coffee shop and flirt with the girls, and it just seemed like a perfect life. And he was a milkman and she was a maid.
Wow.
So I can't make that determination of what it is, but for most people, that lifestyle has passed,
Yeah.
and we are living rich, and most people are busted ass broke. That's a problem.
No, that makes sense. So talk to us about your experience with your brother-in-law, and how I think this is one of the main reasons why you wrote this book, and it really brought me to tears just listening to that on the audio program, and it just blew my mind on different things. So
I appreciate you saying that.
talk a little bit about that. I know it's a sensitive subject, but I think the audience would really understand what you went through and why you even wrote this book. So
We lost my brother-in-law, John, 2 years ago. He died at 46. He died with no health insurance, no life insurance, $100 in a bank, and he left a wife and 4 kids. And it was tragedy for our family, particularly my wife. They were incredibly close. It was her only brother. And so, I learned 2 things. Number one, how does that happen? You busted his ass for 15, 20 years, and he died with no money. He was diagnosed with cancer, by the way. He thought he was going to the doctor to get a shot and go back to work, and he was sent to the emergency room with stage 4 cancer. He died almost a year to the day. So I saw that. I saw the guilt. You know, how is he going to do that to his wife and kids? And then I also saw the power of being able to drop in and write all the checks to cover that and remove that guilt. And then also not have it impact me at all. So I saw both sides of it. And that was the genesis of the book. And the book got picked up by an agent here in Dallas who happens to be Tony Robbins' agent, Cardone's agent, Joel Osteen's agent.
Yeah.
And they sold the rights to Penguin, and the book came out last month.
Yeah, and I know this book was really big for you. So what brings you the most satisfaction right now?
A primary goal in my life is to be a better father to my 3 boys than my dad was to me. Love seeing my boys happy. You know, my wife and I are very much in tuned in that. Like our lives are, her life is 100% for those 3 boys. My life is for those boys and also for this business, right? How do I get this business and the people within this business to reach our potential? It's a hard thing to do, man.
Yeah.
This thing of potential, right? It's the hardest thing because all we do is when we start to tap potential, realize that we got more potential. You know, it's this almost like this eluding, there's no finish line to it.
Yeah, how do you know you reach your potential?
I don't know that you do. I just think you keep enjoying the process and the journey, right? Like, I mean, everything I'm doing connected to the book has just enhanced my life. I've met the most wonderful people. You and I doing this right now. Get to tell the story of my brother-in-law, John, help people. Just before you came in, I was reading an email from a guy who told me that he bought $800,000 worth of term life insurance to protect his wife and his kids, and he just feels like a new man. See, people don't understand that. Just because you don't make a lot of money has no connection to the fact that you can't provide for your family. For $50 a month, you can buy a $200,000 term life insurance policy, and if you croak tomorrow, your family gets 200 big ones. $50 a month, you just took that entire situation out. You know how many people don't even buy term life insurance policies?
No, it's crazy. I was talking to my insurance agent, Ron Mathai with State Farm, and I was like, man, after I read your book, I called him. I was like, dude, we need to sit down and talk.
That's awesome.
Because you just never know,
Dude,
what happens.
For your age and your health, for $25 a month, you could buy probably $150,000 worth of term life insurance. $25 a month. Make your mother, your father, your brother, whoever you want, maybe your charity is the beneficiary. But why would you not?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because, this past 18 months, I've lost both my grandfathers.
Yeah.
So when I read your book, I was like, man, like they didn't have, they live in India, so it's a little bit different, but they didn't have life insurance or anything like that. So, or
Dude,
not that I know of, but it was crazy. Like you put it in, you described it so well in this book.
Thanks,
about
man.
that. So yeah, as soon as I read that, I called Ron and I was like, man, we gotta sit down and talk about this because you just never know what happens.
Dude,
you
don't know. So it's the fastest, easiest, cheapest way to create protection for your family if something was to happen to you, and also to eliminate all of the guilt that I saw my brother-in-law go through.
Yeah.
He wasn't afraid to die. He was afraid to die and leave his family with nothing.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's what happened.
Yeah. And you were fortunate enough to know all this to be able to write the checks if you needed to. So that's just awesome.
It's all because of what's talked about in the book.
Yeah.
Really. I'm grateful for your kind comments, but I really believe that the roadmap in that book can help somebody get on the right path to fix the money situation.
Absolutely. And we all have people we admire in our life. Who are the people who inspire you?
That's such an interesting question, man. I hate to be blasé about it, dude. I don't have a lot of that. I really don't. So it's a flaw. Warren Buffett says, "Show me your 5 heroes, and I'll show you how your life is going to turn out." Dude, I don't have 5 heroes.
Yeah.
I just don't. I wish I could. I never had my whole life. When I heard Warren Buffett say that, I thought, man, I was like, and I can't think of one hero. I don't have a hero. I know that that's a flaw, but I don't have a hero. I don't have anybody that I think is a hero. I just don't.
Okay.
I also understand that everybody's flawed,
Yeah.
right? I also know that I've met a lot of hero-like people. Look, I like to say it around the office, everybody farts.
Yeah.
I mean, my old man used to say, we have feet of clay, which means that the further we get away from being grounded, our bare feet touching the dirt,
Yeah.
the more difficult temptation is.
Yeah.
And so, unfortunately, it's a great question. I wish I had a better answer. I don't have a lot of heroes.
Okay, that makes sense. What about who are your mentors?
I have my buddy Rick, who's a great mentor. I have a great business mentor named Jim Renner. I have energy mentors. I really am energized by Cardone.
Yeah.
I mean, I can literally not feel energized, and I can watch 2 minutes of Cardone, and I'm like fueled again, right?
Yeah.
I think it's the gift he's giving to the world.
Oh, absolutely.
And knowing him like I do, as you've been around him as well, there is nobody who grinds like he grinds.
Yeah.
He is a legitimate stone cold killer. And so even when I think I'm pushing, I watch him do stuff and I'm like, man, I got to go hard.
Yeah.
And that's really powerful. So I love that stuff from Cardone. Again, I'm not looking for a lot of those. I've moved in my life to not being the student anymore, to starting to actually try to be the teacher.
Yeah, and I see like on your Facebook Live videos, you do the morning dip in the pool, like the cold plunge. Yeah. So talk a little bit about that.
That's just a way to get uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the colder my pool gets, the better for me. So I swim in my pool all year round.
Okay.
It never gets heated. And I think this year the coldest was like 43 degrees, and I plunge in it. I try to stay 8 minutes in it.
Yeah.
Every morning. Some mornings I record it and post the video, but it's just my way of testing myself and getting uncomfortable.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what's like your morning routine when it comes to that? You do that every day or?
Well, every day in the wintertime.
Okay.
Every day. Like my pool's not cold now, unfortunately, because it's warming up here. But my morning routine, 6 a.m. workout with my personal trainer. Off days without my personal trainer, I take the dog for a walk. I'll go for a run. Most mornings, I'll take my youngest kid to breakfast. We go to this one breakfast spot like this morning. And I'm usually in the office by 8:15, 8:30. And then I'm usually out of the office by about 4. Because I want to get back home to the kids. I want to watch them play some sports. My oldest is 16. He's getting up there in age. He's got his truck now, his girlfriend.
Yeah.
He ain't around as much as he once was. And I want to really hold on to those last few years. So I'm really digging into that core value of be a better father to my kids than my dad was to me.
No, that makes sense. And what has been your greatest revelation this year, and how have you applied that revelation to your daily life?
Dude, I like that you're asking these current questions and not these sort of past or future questions. I like that. My greatest revelation has been this, and this is, again, I told you I'm a selfish guy.
Yeah.
The greatest revelation I've had is that this book was not written to make the New York Times bestseller list, which is what I thought I wrote it for, right? I knew the book had a great message, but as a goal-oriented guy, I said, well, it has to be a New York Times bestseller to have won.
Yeah.
Dude, this book is helping a lot of people, man. And it's actually opened up this whole new avenue for me to actually care more about other people and try to help the other people. It really has. It's been an amazing experience for me.
Yeah, so, this book, I mean, it really blew my mind. Like, it's probably one of the best books I've ever read. Like, seriously.
That's awesome. Dude.
And I think it was really, really cool how you wrote it. So it's available on Amazon.
Anywhere books are sold.
Yeah.
Barnes & Noble all over the country, Amazon. It's everywhere.
Yeah. So you talked about, like, your free time and stuff. So what do you usually do for fun?
My time with my boys is great. I love my time with my wife. My wife is my best friend. We love hanging out. That's that, dude. My life is fun for me.
Yeah.
If it wasn't, I'd change it. It's like when I go to the grocery store and I see the checkout kid, and and they say, "How's your day going?" And I say, "Phenomenal." You know what I would do if it wasn't? And they say, "What? What'd you just say? Did you like ask me a question?" Like, people don't answer me, right? I said, "No. You know what I would do if it wasn't?" They're like, "What?" I go, "I would change my damn day." Dude, it's lifestyle by design. We're in charge. We are not beholden to anyone. We are in charge.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's key. Like having like a work-life balance. So, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, I don't have that.
You don't have that.
I don't, like, to me, it's all the same.
Yeah.
I don't believe there are any separations in that regard. How do you know what you're doing then?
Yeah.
Does that mean that I can't work because
Yeah.
I'm doing? No, dude. It all has to fit together.
Yeah.
To make the wheel spin at the right speed, it all has to connect.
Yeah, that's what
I'm
I
not
think
looking
too.
for separation. I want it all to be connected.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people like separate things, but I think in this time, like you can't really separate anything. Like for example, like people are like, "Oh, I want to keep my Facebook profile
Yeah.
personal," and then I'm gonna make a separate one, and it's gonna be just for my business. But that's kind of weird now with everything being out there. So I like that you said that.
But what happens when you do that, Ronnie, is you remove time. There aren't days of the week anymore, and there aren't mornings or afternoons. It's not, the people, some of the people that I know, dude, they call me on Sunday. They call me at 10 o'clock at night. There's never a connection to sorry to have bothered you. They're just always in the zone.
Yeah.
And that's the key to balance. Be in the zone. Stay in the zone.
That makes sense. And what are your opportunities for growth on your horizon?
Well, I got the book.
Yeah.
We're doing a You Need More Money online program,
Okay.
training program. And we're going to sell that to the marketplace. It's going to be, I'm going to put something that almost nobody does on one of those programs. I'm going to put 100% money back guarantee. That if that online program doesn't give you the value that you paid for it, which I think we'll charge $497 lifetime membership,
Yeah.
I'll give you 100% of your money back.
Yeah.
Nobody does that with their online program. I even said to the publisher, let's put a money back guarantee on the book.
Yeah.
100% guarantee. If you didn't get $18 or $23 worth of value out of that book, I'll give you your money back. So the publisher doesn't go for that, but I would.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. And what's been the greatest failure in your life?
Greatest failure in my life.
Yep. If you had to identify one moment.
I have to tell you, the greatest failure in my life has probably been my health.
Yeah.
Is that I have put so much in front of my own personal health that I paid a price for that. I've carried way too much weight for way too long. I work out all the time, but I like hamburgers,
Yeah.
Chewed cigars for 20 years of my life. So I probably didn't put enough attention on my health. And without knowing historical data of my birth father, I don't know what that means. So that's probably my greatest failure, is that I really have let my health at certain points in time really way down on the back burner.
Yeah.
Which impacts a lot of stuff. It impacts confidence. It impacts self-esteem. It impacts people's impression of you, right? A lot of that stuff goes with being overweight.
Yeah. I mean, I think health is like really important. Like I had heart surgery when I was 18 years old.
No kidding.
So had a huge scare. Like my mom had to do CPR, or my aunt had to do CPR on me back in 2011.
Wow.
I think it was like 3 days or 4 days after my birthday. I don't know how old I was. I think I just turned 18. But yeah, I think health is like really, really important. So what are things you do? I see you have a personal trainer. What are other things you do to make yourself?
Dude, I'm not the great
that.
example of that.
Yeah.
I wish I could tell you. I mean, I like to eat my hamburgers.
Yeah.
My kids ask for ice cream, say, hey, Dad, let's go for ice cream. I'm like, I'll drive. I'm not the great example for that,
Yeah.
Ronnie. I really am not. And that's not a positive statement. It's a negative.
Yeah.
Especially as you get older, it's very difficult. I mean, you carry 300 pounds for most of your life, like I have. That takes a toll on your body. It takes a toll on your organs and your heart and all that sort of stuff. It's a huge failure of mine, actually. I didn't put health in a higher ranking.
Yeah. So what's the biggest thing holding you back right now for you to get to the next level? Business, life, health.
I mean, if I went through the checklist, is it family or relationship? No. Is it employees? No. Maybe there's a few hires that we need to make here that would free up a little bit more of my time. Is it money? No. Is it energy? Maybe sometimes. I guess if I have to answer your question, it's actually back to my health. What's holding me back from being extremely powerful is that I'm still struggling with my health, which impacts sleep and all that other stuff. I would say, in all honesty, that's probably it. It's also hard for a guy like me who's a fixer to know that I'm struggling to fix getting into great shape.
Yeah. Awesome. And if you had to start your business from scratch in 2018, what would you do differently? So you had no money, nothing, and you had to start.
I'm not sure that I would start my business.
Okay.
I'm telling you, I think I could have been an internet billionaire. I think I would go into artificial intelligence. I would go into cybersecurity. I think I'd go into virtual reality. I would go into some sort of health to repair health. And I think I would not want to be the owner of a business, and I would want to go in and be an early founder of something connected to a team. I think I could get freaking rich doing that.
Yeah, and I think what I think now, just from seeing this book is going to get you to that level you want with all the speaking, the podcasts you're doing. I mean, it's incredible. Just this message right here is just lighting a torch.
Yeah,
and
cool.
I can really see you, blowing up from here.
That's nice
so
of
it's
you
pretty
to say.
cool.
Yeah.
What legacy are you trying to leave?
I want to be known as someone, I'm not overly concerned about my impact to charity or any of that stuff. What I want to be known as, I want to be known as somebody who was a really fair guy.
Yeah.
I don't want to ever be known as somebody who screwed anybody over. I don't want to be known as somebody who took shortcuts or hurt someone, took food off somebody else's plate. I want to be known as somebody who played the game really, really well with an extreme high level of ethics. That's what's important to me. I never want to be looked at as that dirtbag that screwed somebody over for a buck.
Yeah. So Lewis Howes asked this question on the interview, and I want to ask you. So it's called the 3 truths.
All right.
So if, say, all memory of you got wiped clean and there's no traces of you ever being here, and you can only leave 3 things, for your family, for the world, what would be the 3 statements you would say?
3 statements or 3 things I'd leave?
Just 3 things, yeah.
That I'd leave or
Yeah.
statements?
I mean, either.
I would leave my videos and the thousands more that will come, because
Yeah.
those videos will be a legacy for my children and for a lot of other people. I would say...
say you couldn't do the videos or anything, and there's only 3 things people could remember you by.
Yeah.
They're not allowed to
I
watch
would want
your...
them to remember me as just a really special dad.
Yeah.
Somebody who just was insane about loving my boys. I would say the exact same thing about my wife. And I'm going to go maybe a little narrow on this, but I would say I would want my employees to know that I never screwed them over.
Yeah.
That one thing I'm very proud of, 23 years in business, I've never missed a payroll. We pay every Friday in here.
Yeah.
I've never missed a payroll. Not one of my employees has been screwed out of a nickel in 23 years. Now, I missed a bunch of my own payrolls,
Yeah.
but I never missed somebody else's payroll. I want my employees to always know that their family will always be fed by the checks that my company cuts. So I don't know whether those are big enough, dude. I'm not trying to solve world peace, man. I'm not trying to ping the universe. I'm not trying to change the world. I'm not trying to do that sort of stuff. I'm trying to lead the best version of my life. And I think if more people did that, the impact would be massive.
No.
Right? A lot of us are trying to lead somebody else's life, dude. I'm trying to lead my life.
Yeah.
Man. What am I capable of? I'm just getting freaking started.
Yeah. So, last question. What can my audience do to support you?
It's a nice question. I'd love people to buy the book, subscribe to the podcast. The book is called You Need More Money. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere books, Target, Walmart, anywhere books are sold. Spread the message, man. Don't just keep it internally. But I'm also aware that this is a hard message. You may not want to be saying to your buddies, I read this incredible book, right?
Yeah.
It's a private kind of a relationship, that book and your own thoughts.
Yeah.
I'm aware of that, but give it to your loved ones. Give it to people who you care about. Give it to people that you think are living in false positive or they need help. And that would be a great gift. Do you follow me on social anywhere? At Matt Manero is the name on Instagram, whatever the platform is. And just keep listening, man. Keep following. Keep following you. Keep watching your journey. Keep supporting you too, dude. You're going to do some great shit, and it ain't going to be in real estate.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you, Matt, so much for your time here on the Ronnie Phillips Show. If you're still watching this video and if y'all found value to it, make sure you share it with your friends. And if you're listening to this on iTunes, make sure you leave a 5-star rating. Make sure you follow Matt on all his social platforms because he puts out incredible content on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. And make sure you go and get the book. We'll put the link in the description. And thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you share, like, and comment. And also put your questions in the comments below so that way we can answer them.
Let's both hit them up.
Yeah. And thanks so much for watching and have a great day.